Good evening. This is an all-new edition of the India Development Debate right here on ET Now. I'm Supriya Shrinate, and straight on to the top story that we're putting a highlight on. Yes, we are talking about Raghuram Rajan this evening, but we're also talking about the worsening macro numbers that are giving Team Modi sleepless nights. With the rupee continuing to plunge new lows every day, threatening to widen the current account deficit, the task is cut out for Modi government's managers. Rising fuel prices is another big concern ahead of general elections. The government has virtually ruled out a petrol price cut for now though. Interestingly, the worsening macro data comes at a time when former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan has blamed both the UP and subsequently the NDA governments for the poor fiscal management and bad loan mess. In his submission before the Parliamentary Committee on NPAs, Rajan also said he had altered and alerted the Modi government, including the Prime Minister's office, about the big-ticket fraudsters, but no action was taken. The big questions right here on the India Development Debate this evening, and I'm joined by a stellar panel right here. Swaminathan Iyer, our consulting editor, Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, spokesperson of the BJP, Mohammad Khan from the Congress, and Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for being with us. And Swami, I would like to start with you. And I think the flavor today is your good friend Raghuram Rajan. He has categorically blamed the over-optimistic bankers who according to him, threw caution to the wind during periods of economic prosperity. On what count is the Congress and also the BJP politicizing these statements?
Well, I don't see any point in politicizing it at this point, because I don't think what Raghuram Rajan is saying is anything very new. It is an absolute fact that there was an explosion of bank credit in that particular period. India was getting to 10% growth. Everybody was euphoric. They seemed to think that, we can only grow faster and faster. The further problem was that earlier on, the bulk of infrastructure used to be done in very casual fashion by the public sector. And the public sector was notorious for having time overruns and cost overruns. And in some sense, it could afford to do it because there was always fiscal space available, that if the thing cost more, the taxpayer would foot the bill. The moment you began to get public-private partnerships, the moment you got contracts with a leverage of 3-to-1, then, it became absolutely essential that the contract must have no cost overrun, must have no time overrun. Because if you had even a short delay for any reason like land acquisition or environmental clearance, even a short delay, once you reach financial closure, means that the project is in risk. And if the delay is more than 6 months, you get into losses. I mean, there was no understanding that when you throw the private sector into this on a highly leveraged thing, there are enormous risks which you are exposing the private sector to, and hence the banks too. So you had a combination of this high leverage. You also had this complete lack of due diligence of banks. They did not know how to properly assess a project, because they were used to the old idea that if there's an infrastructure project and government has okayed it, we have to finance it. I mean, SBI caps would be asked to do some scrutiny, and SBI caps would collect a 2% commission. And there was no proper scrutiny whatsoever as to real costs. So, I mean, now we finally have to get real and have a banking sector that understands the real costs of banking.
Okay, Swami, hold that thought, because you refer to two important points there. You refer to the point that he's actually blaming a lot of exuberance during the high growth period. I think it's only fair, before I go ask the BJP some tough questions, let's ask the Congress some questions of itself. Mohammad Khan is joining us from the Congress. And Mohammad, even as Raghuram Rajan says and quite clearly asserts that much of the NPA may have happened due to over-optimism of bankers, but it originated between 2006 and 2008 during the period of economic prosperity when you were in power. And corporates did borrow recklessly based on high growth, but failed to service debt when hit by a slowdown and delayed decision-making as projects got stalled and increasingly debt became difficult to be serviced. On that count, are you to be blamed or not?
Well, I would say this. If you were, as the fourth pillar, to hold us accountable to a certain extent, as you should, then by all means we must apportion the BJP government, which is in power, its fair share of blame. I have two documents with me, Supriya. The first is a portion of the report submitted by Raghuram Rajan Saab, where he says, and I quote, the RBI set up a fraud monitoring cell when I was governor to coordinate the early reporting of fraud cases to the investigating agencies. I also sent a list of high-profile cases to the PMO, urging that we coordinate action to bring at least one or two to book. Now, when was this? When was this fraud monitoring cell in this particular action of informing the PMO? When did this take place?
That I'm touching upon. Just give me a minute. I'm touching upon that point in my debate. I'm asking you a direct question. 2006 to 2008 is the origin of massive NPAs. Will you hold yourself accountable on that?
Well, I'll tell you something, Supriya. There was, as your channel also reported at that time, there was a global financial crisis in 2008, which affected literally every country on this planet, and some loans did go bad. But here's the second document I have come armed with. And that is an answer on the floor of Parliament, on the Rajya Sabha, given on 24th July by Mr. Shiv Pratap Shukla, the Minister of State for Finance, on this very question. Mr. Shiv Pratap Shukla concedes that when we demitted office in 2014, NPAs stood at 2,63,000 crores, whereas now they stand at, and I quote him, 9,61,962 crores on 31/3/2018. This is an answer given on the floor of Parliament in July of this year by the Minister of State for Finance. Now you tell me, from 2 lakh crores to 9 lakh crores, if we are apportioning blame indeed today, then who is to blame for the 7 lakh crores that have taken place since? Supriya, I will just conclude by saying this. This government, by its own admission, has been the beneficiary of numerous favorable global trends. Oil prices at a 30-year low for 3 years, at $30 a barrel, rising sentiments in Southeast Asia. What is their defense?
Completely another direction. Yes, they have been big beneficiaries of a benign oil regime, no doubt about that. You were a big beneficiary of a very, very good global robust trade as well. But let me just get Gopal Krishna Agarwal on this. And Gopal Krishna Agarwal, while the BJP chose to do a press conference on what Raghuram Rajan says, and I have a simple question coming up next on how you're certainly willing to embrace him. The question also is, he speaks of delayed decision making, not just in UPA. And to quote him, he says, delayed decision-making in Delhi, both in the UPA and the subsequent NDA governments. He specifically names how coal blocks were cancelled with fear of investigation, and this is perhaps the stigmatized capitalism that Arvind Subramanian referred to. You may have not had policy paralysis that you keep marking the UPA for, but you gave into perception management, and as a result, you stigmatized capitalism, you stigmatized corporate India, and look where we are today.
No, Supriya, the issue is very clear that the problem of slowness in the decision making has been changed, but there are legacy issues. You see the project Bharti, which the PM is taking up Pragati, where he himself take up every month a meeting of the project which was held up, and Prime Minister himself has been instrumental in restarting project to the tune of around 10 lakh crores. There are 18 meetings which have been held, and various projects across ministries, across government, across departments, etc. are being resolved. The issue is, Mr. Rajan has very categorically said, and when Congress says that at the time of BJP coming to power, NDA, it was 2,67,000 NPA. The issue is that this NPA existed in the system, in the banking and the corporate houses before, but Congress has two sins to their credit. One is they created credit to high GDP growth during that period, where they created sub-quality assets in the banks, sub-quality loans, and second, when those projects and etc. became bad, they hid them from disclosure. Their balance sheets in the banks were not even showing those bad loans which existed in the system. This increase to 9.5 lakh crores is not which are fresh loans. These are old loans which were given during the period of 6 to 8. This is what we have been saying, that you gave sub-quality loans at one point of time. He says that they were showing check promoters and corporate crony capitalism friends of UPA were showing checkbooks, and you just take the loan. You created sub-quality loans and then failed the project, then corruption, crony capitalism, everything.
Listen to me now. No. Okay. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, please bear with me. Let's keep this debate civil, and I will come back to you because I have a follow-up question to ask of you on that count itself, on the count of non-disclosures and all of that. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, you're here with us, and in some sense, you were obviously a part of the UPA. But do you believe in some sense the Congress party needs to be blamed for demonizing industry, for this whole genesis of stigmatized capitalism? I blame the BJP. With a brute majority, you give in to that perception, and all that you do is then do perception and headline management. But to the Congress party's, attack, the whole suit boot ki sarkar jibe, who did it cost? It cost India some economic action. It cost the industry to perhaps shy away. I mean, the whole idea of demonizing industry was not good to begin with, was it?
I don't agree. I think, look at the letter and interview as well as the discussion with Raghuram Rajan. He's saying something very, very simple. There is a massive problem. And that massive problem is ignored by the current government and was founded in the previous government. And this massive problem is the outcome of nexus between politics, banks, incompetence as well as fraudulent, as well as promoters who did not have an idea on how, what they would do, what they will build with the money that they take as debt. They in some way stole away money, resources from a future generation of India to fulfill their greed. And now that massive problem is out in the open. The question is, why is nobody belling the cat? There's a fraud list he mentions. Why is that not out? Nobody is belling the cat because BJP hugely benefited from the corporate largesse. As a result, Prime Minister now recently said, quoting, presenting Amar Singh as a face, said that yes, it is all right to have friendship in industry. This roundabout way of Prime Minister, ignoring the problem, ignoring the real issues of NPA, has cost the country dearly. My final point is, you knew there was a massive problem. There's no doubt when letting go Raghuram Rajan, the Prime Minister knew there was a massive problem. He had a frauds list on his desk, but he chose to draw blood from an already anemic system. He brought in a policy like demonetization that shocked the entire country, and then a hastily, poorly implemented GST. So, in the face of a problem, you don't resort to solutions. You resort to further shocks that has further made this problem bigger than ever before.
Mohammad Khan wants to come in very quickly, Mohammed, because I have a follow-up with Gopal. Go ahead.
Okay, actually, my question is to Gopal Bhai only. Gopal Bhai raises an interesting proposition. He says that the loans that became bad, the 7 lakh crores worth of loans that became bad between 14 and 18 under their watch, were the seeds of this were actually laid in the Congress era. Gopal Bhai, I believe you know the definition of non-performing assets. Any loan that is not serviced for a period of 90 to 180 days after it is due, that is when it becomes an NPA. So automatically these would have become non-performing assets during your tenures. They were being serviced during the Congress's tenure. So
Mohammad Khan, 1 second. Let me just come in, and I have a very direct question for you. Yes, Mr. Agarwal, I'm coming to you only. You can, of course, retort, but you will first answer a question that I want to put forward to you. Is it not convenient for the BJP today to suddenly espouse and embrace and endorse everything that Raghuram Rajan is saying, to endorse his economic assessment? Because it suits you. Because let me remind you, your top officials, your ministers, your senior advisors like Rajiv Kumar, last week, not long back, till last week, have blamed Raghuram Rajan for the NPA mess and economic slowdown in India. If this isn't political opportunism, I really wonder what is. Yes, that's Mr. Agarwal.
The issue is that we are never endorsing Raghuram Rajan. This we had been telling. What Mr. Rajan has said, it has been said by the Prime Minister. Narendra Modi ji has said it several times. The issue is that what we have been telling and is being told by Mr. Raghuram Rajan. We are not saying that now Mr. Raghuram Rajan has said, therefore we are saying it. We had been telling, and you also agree here that Raghuram Rajan was never a very
exactly
great praise for NDA
Suddenly
government.
the man has become a prophet in your home.
No, the issue is that when we said, no, Mr. Khan, let me finish. The issue is not that the NPA have been created afterward.
Yes,
they were present at 2014 when you relinquished, and it is we sorted out and brought transparency into the system. And you see, IBC is the only first time which is now at present pushing up the promoters to repay. Otherwise, their asset will be confiscated. Mr. Rajan also says, we also say, everybody. You see, I have also written several articles that first time IBC is where the promoters are afraid of that assets will be parted out.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal,
we are part of the solution. You may say that we have not completely solved it, but
Okay.
we are working towards a solution.
No, okay. I don't think anybody will deny you the credit for rolling out an IBC. It's a good reform. It's resetting rules of lending and borrowing in India. Nobody will, nobody will refute you that. But I think what people will refute you is a question that I will take up with Swaminathan earlier, because I don't think both you, the Congress or the SP. 1 second. Yeah, 1 second, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Give me a minute. Why are you getting so agitated? Swami, Raghuram Rajan has very emphatically stated that he had sent a list of 30 accounts to the PMO seeking coordinated inquiry of fraud in many big corporate loans in 2016. He ends that statement by saying, I don't know what action has been taken. I mean, if this was a war against crony capitalists, why wasn't this followed up?
Well, I would also ask, why didn't he send that list earlier? I mean, is it something new that cronies are getting loans from banks? Is there anything new? And is it anything new that when those loans weren't repaid, they were evergreened again and again and again? I mean, let's not pretend that the banking system was nice and fine until Raghuram Rajan came away and, oh my God, something suddenly went wrong. So there were very serious problems in this banking system ever after nationalization. Now, what used to happen was that, when things went wrong, NPAs piled up, everybody evergreened the loans and waited for a cyclical recovery, saying when the cyclical recovery comes, most of the bad debts will go away and we will carry on. But the huge losses on the infrastructure loans, they were not cyclical. They did not go away and they got worse and worse. Now, Raghuram Rajan is correct in pointing out that things went seriously wrong. He's right in pointing out that both the Congress and NDA underestimated. Let me be clear that Raghuram Rajan himself grossly underestimated the problem. He was in charge. He came with one scheme for solving the problem. Number 2, number 3, number 4, all of them failed. Finally, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code had to be brought in now. So let's be clear that the understatement of the problem was certainly a problem of Congress and NDA, but also of Raghuram Rajan. Let's not pretend that he was able to immediately grasp the particular situation and solve them. The things that he did at that time, he attempted to resolve the NPAs and that failed. The second point you made, Supriya, is about the list of fraudulent things. Okay, this again is not exactly new.
Okay, I think we've just lost Swami's audio. Can we get him back? But I think both Ghanshyam Tiwari and Mohammad Khan want to make a point there, and then I will take this up with Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Ghanshyam Tiwari, go ahead.
Well, clearly, this is the first time that a RBI governor has sent such a list to the Prime Minister.
An important question, Ghanshyam, that why did he not do this before?
It's up to him to answer. But for me, an RBI governor and independent institutions, regulators sends a list to the Prime Minister whose government was elected on the back of a very powerful anti-corruption movement. And has BJP followed up anything on that anti-corruption movement? From Lokpal to this list, the na khaunga, na khane dunga was a big joke played out cruelly in front of the entire nation. Even today, one can question about Raghuram Rajan's failure, but did he get any cooperation from this government? Till today, the government is unable to make up its mind whether it is pro-Raghuram Rajan or anti-Raghuram Rajan. They replaced him without knowing what to expect from an RBI governor. RBI as an institution stands diminished. PMO as an institution stands diminished. BJP's voice as an anti-corruption crusader is turned out to be a joke. And finally, this government does not know how to solve this problem. Have you heard any sincere and earnest voice right from PMO to RBI, to the banks, to the two finance ministers who were there recently, how to solve this problem? They barely acknowledge the problem.
Mohammad Khan, very quickly, because I do want to get in Gopal Krishna Agarwal into this.
Yes, just 45 seconds. Ghanshyam bhai, haven't you heard? They've changed the slogan after the Prime Minister's beloved Mehul Bhai, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi left the country. They've changed it to na khaunga na khane dunga magar pack karke le jane dunga. Secondly, there is a distinction. Now I want to come to what Mr. Iyer was saying. Mr. Iyer forgets one crucial distinction. When the loans were given in 2006 and 2008, we could not have preempted or predicted what Mr. Raghuram Rajan himself reiterates in his report, that global trends would turn so very unfavorable, which would lead to these loans becoming non-payable. But in 2014, when Mr. Modi came to power, on the floor of Parliament in 2014, he stood and spoke about the NPA problem and said it was one of the biggest problems they'll face. When they knew the magnitude of the problem they claimed to face, why did they let it aggravate to the point that a 2 lakh crore default became a 9 lakh crore default?
So let me take this across to Gopal Krishna Agarwal. And Gopal Krishna Agarwal, what Swami says, I partly agree with him. I partly agree with what my other panelists are saying. But the direct question to you is that, you know, the BJP blames the UPA for a legacy issue as far as high NPAs were concerned. I think Raghuram Rajan's submission also kind of endorses the fact that origin was in 2006, 2008. Now, as an economist and as financial journalist, I can also figure out why this was so. In times of high exuberance, you know, people extrapolate, take big bets, they don't pay off. All of that set aside, you have blamed, and I think rightly so, the legacy issue. But who shoulders the responsibility for complete lack of any action against the high-profile fraudsters, the 30 people named and sent by Raghuram Rajan? Because people will today question, is this the lack of any action? Is this the laxity that allowed economic fugitives one after the other to flee this country at the behest of taxpayers' money?
Supriya, I would like to say that IBC is not the only that we have brought in the law. It took 27 years that the Benami Property Act, which was passed by the Parliament, to be notified. It is in 2016 that our Prime Minister notified Benami Property Act. UPA should answer that also. Then who brought this ordinance for fugitive economic offenders bill? Those who are running off. These are the three important part of the solution. We are not saying that every problem is solved. The second important point I would like to make is that Bhushan Steel is part of that fraud list. Bhushan Steel is now, everybody, money is being recovered. It is being started. Already RBI has sent around 12 names for the corporate houses whose properties, everything are going to NCLT, and we are solving it. And you see the bank balance sheet are improving. So we are solving the problem. And the third thing I agree with Mr. Ankleshwara here is, Mr. Rajan, why he needs to send the list to Prime Minister?
The debts have ballooned from 2 lakh crore to 9 lakh crore. What is his index of success?
Banks are under, no, let me finish.
What is his measurement of success?
No, let me finish.
By his
the
measure,
banks are under the RBI. No, the banks are under RBI. Governor can directly say the RBI can say the banks, and now RBI at present has given the list of just going for doing forensic audit of all loans above 50 crores. Every bank, PSB bank has been directed that do forensic audit of and every loan above 50 crores. So
guess what? I think the fact that you're missing here. No, let me come in there. No. Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Okay, that's good.
No,
I give you credit. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, please listen to me. I give you credit for IBC. No, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you will have to listen to me. You can go carry on and talk.
You have to give credit for all.
Please listen to me. 1 second, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. No, 1 second, please listen. Please listen. I'm giving you credit for Benami. 1 second. I'm giving you credit for Benami. I'm also giving you credit for IBC. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you will have to listen to me because I'm moderating this discussion. Everybody can't be talking at the same time. I give you credit for IBC. I give you credit for Benami. What I don't give you credit for, that you're saying, why did he have to? No, please listen. Okay, you first make out your list, then I will give you credit. I give you credit for all of that. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, please listen to me. I give you credit for all of that. But I have every business to question why was no action taken on that list, and what do you mean by saying why was it sent to the Prime Minister if it is not going to be sent to the PMO? Who else will it be sent to? He started AQR, and what did you do? You shunted him away. You brought in demonetization. All the attention shifted away from a war against NPA. I give you credit where you deserve, but let's not raise... No, 1 second. Please wait. While I give you credit on IBC, I'm going to ask Mohammed Khan a question on the IBC, so please listen to me now. Mohammed Rajan also asserts until the bankruptcy code was enacted, bankers had no ability to threaten an errant promoter who treated debt as equity and took the system for a ride. Stalled projects continued, and he uses the word as zombies, dead or alive. Will you not concede that the IBC or the NCLT or the Benami Property Act, these are new frameworks, these are defining the new rules of business. This is going to throw out errant promoters out of their assets, and for the first time promoters are worried about this.
Yes, Supriya. In fact, you will note that all of these 3 bills have been passed with Congress support. 2 of these bills were drafted during the Congress era, and it fell to them to pass them. On the IBC, I would say the following. Look, the IBC is a step that has come into play now. 4 years after they've been in power. They could have passed this in the very first parliamentary session. They didn't, when they knew that this was a problem that they claimed to predict. But Supriya, here's the thing. How successful has this government been in actually tackling higher value offenders? I can name 4 people: Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi, Vijay Mallya, and the other Modi from Rajasthan, who left the country under their watch. They were on lookout circulars. The lookout circulars were suspended and then reinstated. They were suspended long enough for them to run away. So either this government is complicit or negligent in letting them run away. Neither scenario is flattering, Supriya. But has anyone till date been held accountable? No. And that leads to the conclusion that the IBC, that the Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill and the Benami Transaction Amendment Act are band-aid solutions which are eyewashes. As of now,
Ghanshyam
yes.
Tiwari, you have a background in finance, and let me ask you, the Congress and the BJP are not going to agree on anything. I wonder if the SP will. Whatever you may say about the IBC, today I get to speak to promoters, I get to speak to people whose cases have landed in IBC. They are scared to lose their assets for the first time. Promoters in this country have always treated debt as equity. This is money that I've got, it's going to be written off, or I'm going to get a big, a big haircut on this. What's the big deal? That was the attitude. Isn't that attitude changing?
No, absolutely, it's a welcome step, and I think we must not forget, no matter the political aspects, but we must not forget that this problem originated in a Congress era, and there was a nexus between somebody in the government, somebody in the bank, and somebody in the promoter, and there was a reason why these promoters always felt they could get away. We must not forget that this bill was needed even before this leverage economy was built, and we must not forget that any government cannot bring such a bill in the first quarter of its existence. So that is being fair to BJP. The only question that BJP must answer is they had allowed this problem to prosper because of their political considerations. They wanted these largesse from corporates to be bigger, to continue, and they wanted to ensure that they would bring in an IBC but not act on the frauds list. The question on credibility of the PMO is not with respect to IBC. IBC is Parliament's business. It is with respect to the frauds list.
Mohammed, if I may come to you, and of course then I'll also get a word in from Ghanshyam on this. Yesterday you had this massive Bharat Bandh asking for a fuel price cut. All of that said and done, and the middle class shouldn't suffer and all of that. The reality is this political recklessness when the need of the hour, as Swami said on our show yesterday, Swaminathan Iyer, is you need a steady hand on the tiller. After all, a high deficit, you know better than anybody else, is going to lead to high inflation, and unstable macros will hurt India more than middle class paying a little more for oil. And I consider myself middle class. I am paying a little bit more for oil, but I'm all right with it as long as inflation and deficits are under control.
Let us be under no misapprehensions. The first priority of the BJP government is the BJP itself. You talk to me about tax terrorism. I have said this before on ET now. This is a government which promised in the manifesto they would end tax terrorism. Yet they have filed the largest number of tax cases and also amended the Income Tax Act to allow raids to take place on premises and not be questioned in a court of law. Earlier under the UPA there was accountability of officers. Now there isn't. Number two, March of this year, Supriya, $23,000 millionaires, that means people of 6 crores and upwards net worth, left this country. Now, if that is not a damning indictment of their lack of confidence in this government's ability, then I don't know what is, and the Congress had nothing to do with that. Number three, it is because of their poorly thought out and poorly implemented policies such as GST and demonetization, which they refuse to admit and capitulate to, that they did them badly, that people are losing faith in them. Again, nothing to do with the Congress. We called a bandh for one simple reason. And while we are on the subject of NPAs, let me paraphrase Mr. Kapil Sibal. The bandh was called to prove that the biggest non-performing asset this country has is our Prime Minister. And the point we were making is you have to be sensitive to the fact that oil prices are breaking the back of the common man, especially farmers who uses diesel for his tractors, for his generators, for his motorcycles. You were completely insensitive. Your spokespersons were on channel saying, no, it's an upper middle class problem. The common man rides by the metro, the common man rides by the bus. You are so caught up in your ivory towers that you have lost your connect with the people. And the bandh was called for the purpose of reminding you of that.
Because I want to take this across to Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal. And Mr. Agarwal, I think the raging debate today is not one on oil, or it's not one on anything else. It's on current account deficit and it's on the rupee, and which is exactly why we have three politicians who understand the implications of this. My problem with politicians is, and whether it's the Congress or the BJP, and obviously, every other political party, is that for political gains, the notion, give me a minute, let me finish my question. The notion of a strong rupee being a sign of a strong economy is being propagated. I interviewed Mr. Chidambaram, and he refused to answer my question on the rupee because as a former finance minister, he obviously understands there are global factors and you can't be blamed alone. But you know what he said? He said categorically that you are being paid back in your own penny. You were the one who started off this whole nonsense of 40 to $1 if you come to power, and the favor is just being returned to you. Are you willing to concede that you were wrong to attack the government then, just like they're wrong to attack you on a weak rupee today?
Supriya, the issue is that what causes, there definitely current account deficit and the falling rupee is a cause of concern, and the rising import bill on the petroleum product, global petroleum prices are a cause of concern at the present economy. But when we criticize UPA and when we defend our government this time, is what is the cause of these two issues, these 3-4 macroeconomic parameters? There were, at that point of time, there were domestic factors more. Global factors were supporting the economy, but the domestic factors by the UPA government, whether it was inflation, whether it was leakages into the government's schemes, whether it was corruption into the whole system, those caused this macroeconomic derailment. Now, definitely there are issues, but it is global factors which are affecting, and we are taking concern, and that itself says that petroleum prices should not be reduced.
So you are
taxes
saying
on that, because it will further aggravate the problem of current account deficit.
No, one second.
We are standing against the populist measure which the Congress want us to go into. We are not decreasing excise on petrol.
No, one second.
Because it will
lead
to further
now.
aggravating the current account deficit.
Okay. Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, please listen to me. A petrol price cut is populist now. And जब आप कहते थे अब की बार हुई महंगाई की मार मोदी सरकार, तब क्या था वो? आज वो populist हो गया. I mean, let's not change positions because of where we sit on the side of treasury benches. Let's keep at least our economic positions
inflation को देखो ना, उस वक्त
it
was around 10%. Now it is 5%. No, inflation that time was 10%. You see the onion price, potato price, milk price, all are pulses price.
Sir,
they are
rupees.
Low. So
sir,
inflation is
90
less
rupees
than 5%.
for every liter
You have
of
to
petrol.
look into things.
Okay, give me a minute.
Also. Yes, I agree. Petrol prices is a concern. Yes.
Inflation is less than 5%. The rupees at 73. Okay, give me a minute. I think Ghanshyam Tiwari wants to come into this discussion. Ghanshyam.
Well, Supriya, when you get up in the morning and you read the ET headline that says CAD on a hot tin roof, the Dalal Street Bulls flee, rupees slips, and you look at all the data. We are on ET now. This is not a channel of rhetoric. Let's be fair, Gopal Agrawal. If you say that global factors were not there earlier, the crude oil was $132 a dollar, and for a barrel, and today when it went to $30, what benefit did you pass on to the people? Exactly. Clearly, you have to, as a government, you have to face your responsibility. You choose not to face because you just like the BJP handle yesterday created a statistics that showed 80 as much smaller than 30. This is exactly what your policy is. Build propaganda. Don't care about policy. Let people follow our propaganda.
Okay.
The reality is you made.
Ghanshyam. Okay, we've done 1 hour of the show on fuel. We're not going to be sucked into the fuel debate. But very quickly, I think Swaminathan Iyer is back with us on the phone line. And Swami, the rupee has lost 11.6% year to date versus the dollar. The government has today asked the RBI to boost efforts to support the rupee, defend it. But why are strategic one-time schemes not being implemented? And do you believe there is rationale in things like an 80-20 scheme that was held in 2013? I mean, these are things that helped the CAD come down from 4.5% to 1.3% of the GDP. Can RBI's, flushing in on Forex be the answer alone, or do we actually need some one-time schemes to defend the rupee, like we had in 2013?
This is not the time to panic. In 2013, you went for those special schemes after a meltdown when the rupee went from 55 to 68. The depreciation was 22-23% and falling day after day. You are nowhere near in that same situation today. The amount of depreciation that you're seeing in India is comparable to what you are seeing in a large number of other emerging market countries. So there is an emerging markets problem, and it is not going to go away quickly. And as I said, if sanctions against Iran come in November and Iranian oil output drops dramatically, we may get a situation that is much worse because the price of oil goes up by 10-15%. It will hit oil importers like India. So the prospects are not good. But I said, don't panic right now. But if things go very seriously wrong, and if sharp rise in the price of oil forces our hand, that I think might be the time to start on special measures, such as trying to physically curb gold imports or attract foreign exchange as was done in the past. At this point, just hold steady. At this point, yes, we are under pressure, but it is not yet a meltdown situation. It is not yet comparable to 2013. So as of now, don't panic, don't get alarmist, also don't get populist.
Okay, don't get populist, and I think it's only fair that I give Gopal Krishna Agarwal the last word because he's the one who's been defending his position like all of us are attacking him. And Mr. Agarwal, in the run-up to elections, and given the economy is not in the pink of health like we'd want it to be, we run the risk of overspending to push growth, leading to perhaps an overheated economy, a higher fiscal deficit, a wider CAD, inflation that's rising. Will you, and of course all of that will put greater pressure on the rupee, which will be nowhere close to the 40 that you had envisaged and promised. But given all of that, will you promise our viewers that you will not go populist come what may?
Definitely, that is what the message of Prime Minister has been in private forums and the public forum, that we will go what is good for the economy, what is good for the people of the country, what is good for the nation, not go for short-term populist measures. Populist doesn't mean that you do not take policies which are favorable to the people. Populist means you take some economic decisions which are not in the interest of the country as a whole, but for getting votes. That is called populist, and we are not going to go into that. We have taken tough decisions with regard to GST, demonetization, IBC, NPA, even petrol prices against all odds. So we are committed to macroeconomic.
No, we are not going to go back to IBC. Gopal Agarwal, thank you very much. No. Okay. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, thank you very much. But on the eve of elections in the 3 assembly states, if you go ahead and cut petrol prices, I will have another discussion with you right here on this show, and I will ask you what populist measures mean. Promise me you will not do that, and I will hold you to your word. But on that note, thank you very, very much, gentlemen. Swaminathan Iyer, Mohammad Khan, Ghanshyam Tiwari, and Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Thanks very much for putting the spotlight on India's macro economy, at least from the political point of view, what Raghuram Rajan has said, and why are politicians willing to politicize his statements. Thanks very much for being with us. We take a quick breather and we are back with the big voice of the day. Bimal Jalan, India's former RBI governor, in conversation with us right here on the India Development Debate.